Lesson 80. Note alterations, sharps, flats, and naturals from Learn Violin Fast, Book 1. Please review Section 7. If you recall, we have 7 different core note names and 12 subdivisions. Sharps and flats raise the notes up or down by a half step, creating the total number of 12 subdivisions of the 7 main notes. For example, between A and B, which is a whole step, there is a half step. That half step can be either a raised A with a sharp or lowered B with a flat. We also have a natural, which will cancel a sharp or a flat. When sharps, flats, and naturals appear outside of the key signature, they are called accidentals. Accidentals last for the entire duration of the measure, not just that note and not the entire line. So a flat, line plus half a grape or half a heart, lowers a note by a half step. A sharp, right, which looks like a hashtag or the number sign, raises a note up by a half step, and a natural cancels a sharp or a flat. So natural is a little confusing because it can make a note lower if it's canceling a sharp, or it can make a note higher if it's canceling a flat. To raise a sound or a note on a violin, we must shorten the string. If a note has a sharp on it, the string must be shorter by 5% of its length, meaning you must move your left finger towards the bridge or towards your face. To lower a sound note on a violin, we must lengthen the string. If a note has a flat on it, the string must get longer by 5% of its length, meaning you must move your left hand towards the scroll and away from you. Now, a little confusing object is if you have a D, for example, on an open D, you have a flat next to it. Do we then tune the open D down? No, we don't. So the way to lower an open string, we have to go to the next string, and we typically will play, depending on what we're playing, we will play a low 4. Right? So here's an example. Here's open D. Here's 3 on G. So the notes are C and D. If we encounter in music a D flat, what we would typically do is we will take a pinky and we will put it next to our third finger, and that would be D flat. So the notes are D, D flat, and C. Another confusing thing is if we have to raise by a half step an open string. Let's say we have an open A. The next note that we'll learn as far as B. Now that's a whole step, it's 10% of the string's length. But what if we see an A with a sharp next to it? The way we would play that is we are not going to tighten the string. We're going to place our 1 past the tape or 5% of the string's length to play A sharp. So here's A, here's A sharp, here is B, right? So to raise an open string by a half step, we would play a low finger, or we would place it on a half step, 5% of the string's length. And if we have to lower an open string, we would typically go to the lower string and we would play a low 4, playing a flat of that same letter, but on the lower string. If this is a little confusing, don't worry about it. This is, again, for much, much later, but you should know what sharps, flats, and naturals do. You should also know the concepts of how this works. If you want to take a note and make it sharp, you would have to move your finger towards the bridge or your face, making the string 5% shorter. And if you have a note and you need to make it a flat, you would have to move it away from your face towards the scroll, making it 5% longer. If you have a flat and an open string, you would have to go to a lower string and place a low pinky. If you have to make a sharp and an open string, you would have to play a low 1. Now that's a little bit more advanced. That's something you're going to see in book 3. But at least now understand how sharps, flats, and naturals work. And the concepts of lengthening and shortening the strings is actually quite simple. So hopefully that makes sense. Let that sit in your mind. And when you get to more advanced music with sharps and flats, it should all make sense and not be confusing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson when we get to talk about why scales are what they are and how to create them. Thanks for watching. See you next lesson.